looking ahead now to the Brentford game on New Year's Day, it just felt, even though obviously keep a very close eye on results and form and everything like that in the job, it felt like Arsenal were in slightly worse form than they actually are in looking at the stats. 3 wins in a row, 8 wins from last 10, unbeaten in the last 11. Just those back-to-back draws against, was it Fulham and Everton, I think, in the Premier League, just saw them drop a little bit further behind. It felt like they were in slightly worse form, though, but it's just because Liverpool keep on winning, isn't it? Those are the standards being set, and any sort of drop points, like we've seen in previous seasons with Man City at their peak, any drop points, even a draw, almost as bad as a defeat at the moment. So Arsenal actually go into that Brentford game in really good form, but, and I know we seem to say this every week, but it's just another must-win because of what Liverpool are doing. Those are the standards they're setting, and Arsenal somehow need to keep on winning and hope for Liverpool to slip up at some point. And starting on New Year's Day, it's an absolutely crucial game for Arsenal to go and win.
Yeah, absolutely. 2 really difficult away games coming up, to be honest, for Arsenal now in a row. Brighton and Brentford. Brentford and Brighton. It's going to be tough for Arsenal, those 2 trips. But you're right about the form. They are in decent form. I think the thing is with Arsenal at the moment, so much of the talk after games is more about the performance than the actual result at the moment. Arsenal picking up some results, winning, but then even after Ipswich, for example, it wasn't convincing. They didn't play very well. They struggled against a team who sat deep. They didn't create too many chances. And so even though Arsenal won that game, all the reactions, certainly amongst a lot of the fans and the media, was on how Arsenal performed and how they played. And that kind of makes you think, oh, Arsenal have lost or they've dropped points, but they actually didn't. They won a game again. But that, I think when you compare it to Liverpool as well, and then you sort of sit back and watch Liverpool do what they did against West Ham, it's like, well, it's chalk and cheese in terms of watching how the 2 teams play. But it's very difficult, I think, to compare teams. Is Liverpool just the best attacking side in the Premier League right now? They're probably the best attacking side in world football right now. So it's very hard for Arsenal to compete with that, especially without some of their key players. The Brentford game is going to be really important, I think, for Arsenal. You would look at these 2 games coming up and think Arsenal are going to get a bit more space than they're used to, especially at home. Brentford aren't going to sit completely deep and look to frustrate Arsenal for 90 minutes. Brentford score a lot of goals at home. They're very, very strong at home. And you would think that's going to leave some space for Arsenal to try and exploit going forward. I think that's definitely what they'll get at Brighton as well, because Brighton play some lovely football and they will look to attack and go forward, and that should leave some space for Arsenal to attack. So you would hope we're going to see a little bit more from them in an attacking sense in these next couple of games. And they're going to have to, because they're 2 very difficult teams to play against. And then we'll see what happens to Liverpool. I think it's really hard. Like, I didn't watch the Liverpool game. I was out at a restaurant and I opened my phone after about just before half time. I was like, Liverpool away at West Ham. You never know. This could be an opportunity. Let's go and see what the score was. And I looked at my phone and my heart just dropped. And everyone around me was like, what's wrong? And I was like, because I'd looked, I was like, Liverpool are 3-0 up. And it's just like, if I feel like that, players must feel like that. Other fans feel like that. It's just that sort of soul destroying realization that Liverpool are doing it again. They're scoring loads of goals again. They're looking really scored. Salah's scoring again. And to sort of keep going week after week when you're coming up against a team playing that well and a player playing that well, it's very, very hard, I imagine, to keep going. But that's what Arsenal have to do. That's a challenge they face over the coming weeks. And they can't afford to feel sorry for themselves, and they've got to go and they've got to win these 2 really difficult away games now to give themselves as the best possible opportunity of catching this Liverpool team.
Yeah, the Brentford one seems to be coming at a fairly decent time to play Brentford. They're winless in their last 4, including 3 defeats across all competitions. But as you mentioned earlier, they've been so good at home. No team, not even Liverpool, has picked up more points at home from them. No team has scored more goals. Only Spurs get close. Everyone else is far behind in terms of amount of home goals scored. But again, as you said, they let in a lot of goals as well. And Arsenal, we've spoken, I think it was last week, about that record they had of the most games scoring 5 or more goals away from home in a calendar year from an English top flight club. They've scored 5 goals in 3 of their last 4 away games, which is in all competitions, which is an incredible run of goal scoring away from home. In London derbies, I think they've scored 5 or more goals in 5 of their 10 London derbies in 2024, which is incredible. Another incredible record. There's going to be goals in this one, isn't there? Brentford have scored 32 and conceded 32 this season. If any team seems to guarantee you goals, it's Brentford, and Arsenal will be seeing this as a chance to really fill their boots in terms of goals. But then, having said that, we would have said the same about Brentford versus Brighton. That ended up goalless. So who knows? But you'd think this one has got goals in it, surely.
You would think, yeah. I don't know how Brentford-Brighton ended up goalless anyway. We're watching the highlights of that game. Yeah, I mean, it's got goals written all over it. Like you said, Brentford's numbers are at home this season are crazy, and the amount of, you know, every time they play at home, it seems to end up 4-3 or something like that. So, yeah, Arsenal are going to have to defend very, very well, because we know how strong Brentford are and the goals they score and the partnership that Mbeumo and Wissa have. You know, it's superb. So Arsenal are going to have to defend very well, and if they can do that, then they're definitely going to have opportunities to exploit at the other end because of the way that Brentford play. So I think, as much as we're going to talk about Arsenal's needs for their forwards to play well, I think Gabriel and Saliba are going to be absolutely crucial to Arsenal's chances of winning, because if they can keep things tight, if they can keep Brentford out, then the opportunities that are going to rise at the other end, you would hope, are going to be enough for Arsenal to go on and get the win in this game. So they've actually got a decent record at Brentford the last few seasons. They had that nightmare first game when Brentford got promoted, when they lost a few years back. But then since then, they won last year, 1-0. Kai Havertz got his first Arsenal goal. The season before that, they went there and won 3-0. They won there in the League Cup as well in the last couple of seasons. So they've actually got a good record at Brentford's new stadium. And that should give them a little bit of confidence, I would think, to go into this one. It'll be interesting to see what Mikel Arteta does. You know, does he change things? Does he stick with the team that we saw against Ipswich, or does he change things? I think he probably will stick. I think it's a little bit too early. You know, there was a lot of difference in opinions in terms of how Gabriel Martinelli did, for example, on the right-hand side. I thought he did all right. There's definitely room for improvement, but it's his first start in that position since Saka got injured. He's going to have to get used to it. The teammates are going to have to get used to it. I think it's too early to sort of rip things up and change things. So I think he'll probably stick and hope that this team can gel and this new attack can gel. And yeah, I think they'll certainly get opportunities where they should be able to get themselves on the score sheet.